My brother and sister, step one, in a world that often confuses noise with power, you choose silence and still make waves. We live in a world where being loud is often mistaken for being strong, where volume is equated with value and visibility is confused with significance. People rush to speak, to shine, to stand in the spotlight, believing that being heard is the only way to be respected. But amidst all that noise, there are those rare individuals who don't compete for attention. They don't raise their voice to be seen. Instead, they simply are. They move with purpose, speak with intention, and act with quiet certainty. And in doing so, they command a kind of presence that noise can never replicate. You are one of those people. Your strength doesn't rely on volume, it radiates from your core. It's not in what you declare to the world, but in what you carry with grace, the struggles you've endured, the burdens you've borne, the choices you've made with integrity, even when no one was looking. You've proven that real power doesn't need an audience to exist. It lives in restraint, in dignity, in knowing who you are without needing to convince others. While others may chase applause, you build legacies in silence. You lead by example, not by ego. You let your consistency do the speaking, showing up even when it's hard, doing what's right instead of what's easy, offering patience in place of pride. And somehow that quiet strength leaves a more lasting impact than any loud proclamation ever could, because it's real, it's steady, it's felt, not just heard. Your influence is not in your words, but in your presence. People may not always realize it in the moment, but your calm resolve becomes a source of comfort. Your silent perseverance, a quiet inspiration. You change lives not by demanding attention, but by modeling a deeper way of being, one rooted in grace, self-awareness, and unshakable inner strength. You are proof that silence can be powerful, that humility can lead, and that strength can be quiet yet undeniable. So, when the world gets loud, when it tells you to shout, to be seen, to fight for space, just to prove your worth, remember this: you already make waves without raising your voice. Your quiet strength is not a weakness, it is your superpower. And that is what makes your presence unforgettable. Step 2, your resilience doesn't shout, it simply endures, and that is its greatest power. Resilience is often misunderstood. People tend to imagine it as loud declarations of strength, grand gestures of defiance, or dramatic moments of triumph. But true resilience isn't theatrical. It's not about how loudly you can proclaim that you're unbreakable. It's about how quietly you keep moving forward when everything inside you wants to give up. It's the ability to hold yourself together, not in the spotlight, but in the silence of your darkest hours. And that's where your power lies, in your ability to endure without needing applause. You've been through storms that no one saw coming. You faced nights when the weight on your shoulders felt impossible to carry, and yet you woke up the next day and tried again. Not because it was easy, and not because you felt particularly strong, but because something inside you refused to give in. That quiet refusal, that invisible decision to rise again, is resilience in its purest form. It doesn't come with fanfare or recognition, but it's what has carried you through your hardest battles. People often don't realize the strength it takes to simply keep going, to show up when your heart is tired, to smile when your soul is weary, to offer kindness when life has been unkind. But you do it over and over again, not because you have to, but because that's who you are. You are built from something deeper than surface strength. Your resilience is rooted in grace, in faith, and in a quiet determination that even pain cannot erode. There is power in not giving up. There is beauty in enduring silently without needing the world to notice, because resilience isn't about noise, it's about presence. And you have never let your struggles define you. You've carried them with dignity, allowed them to shape you, and used them as fuel to become wiser, stronger, and more grounded. That kind of strength, the kind that comes without complaint, is rare, and it's deeply admirable. So no, your resilience doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It simply is. It lives in your heartbeat, in your breath, in the quiet choices you make every day to keep moving, keep believing, and keep loving, despite everything. That is your greatest power, the endurance of your spirit, steady and unshaken. And that, more than anything else, makes you extraordinary. Step 3. While others rush to be seen, you quietly rise, letting your actions speak volumes. In today's world, so many are in a race to be noticed, to be the loudest in the room, the most visible in the crowd, the one who stands in the spotlight, even if only for a fleeting moment. We live in a culture where validation is often measured in likes, views, and applause. But while others chase recognition, you choose something different. You rise not for attention, not for approval, but because rising is in your nature. You don't need the world to see your every step to know that each one matters. You're not motivated by noise, but by purpose. Your growth is quiet, but it's relentless. You invest in your craft, nurture your character, and build your foundation brick by brick, without broadcasting every achievement. You don't need to announce your progress, because the results speak for themselves. There's something powerful, even sacred, about moving in silence. It allows you to grow freely without the weight of outside expectations or the distraction of comparison. You've learned to value substance over spotlight, and that is what sets you apart. You've come to understand that real success isn't about being seen. It's about being true. You don't need to perform for others to validate your worth. Instead, you let the quality of your work, the integrity of your choices, and the consistency of your effort tell your story. And they do more clearly than any self-promotion ever could. People may not always notice right away, but your quiet commitment leaves a lasting impression. Because while noise fades, authenticity endures. In every room you enter, your presence speaks long before you do. It's in how you carry yourself, how you listen more than you speak, how you show up fully even when no one is watching. You don't need to dominate conversations to be heard or command attention to be respected. Your calm confidence makes people lean in. Your humility creates space for others, and your silence is never empty. It's filled with depth, intention, and a quiet kind of wisdom. So while others rush to be seen, remember that you're building something deeper, a life of meaning, a reputation built on integrity, and a legacy shaped by grace. You're not in this to be noticed for a moment. You're in it to be remembered for a lifetime. And that quiet rise of yours, it's not just powerful, it's unforgettable. Step 4. There is unmatched courage in the calm you carry, even in your most uncertain moments. Courage is often portrayed as bold, dramatic, and loud. The hero standing tall, unshaken in the face of chaos. But the truest form of courage doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it looks like stillness, Sometimes it looks like taking a deep breath when you're filled with doubt. Sometimes it looks like staying composed when everything inside you is unraveling. And that's where your strength lies, in the calm you carry even when the ground beneath you feels unstable. You may not always feel brave, but your ability to remain steady in the unknown is a quiet kind of heroism. There's a rare beauty in how you hold yourself during difficult times. When uncertainty clouds the path ahead and nothing feels certain, you don't panic, you reflect, you take one careful step at a time. And even when fear tries to whisper its way into your thoughts, you answer it with clarity, not chaos. That calm isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the product of your inner work, your emotional intelligence, and your deep understanding that not all storms require you to fight. Some require you to endure with grace. People may not see what it takes to remain composed when your heart is heavy or your future unclear. They may not realize how hard it is to resist the urge to fall apart or lash out. But you do it, not because you're unaffected, but because you've built a strength that doesn't rely on control. That is the number art that peace is something you create inside yourself, even when nothing outside of you makes sense. And that inner calm, that unshakable center, is one of the greatest testaments to your courage. What's most inspiring is that your calm doesn't just serve you. It creates safety for others. People around you feel more grounded in your presence. Your steadiness becomes a quiet lighthouse for those who are struggling to find direction in their own storms. You remind them, simply by being you, that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "Keep going. You've got this." And somehow that's more powerful than any battle cry. So even in your most uncertain moments, when you're unsure, anxious, or standing at a crossroads, your calm is not a sign of indifference or weakness. It's evidence of your depth, your discipline, and your heart. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that says, "I may not have all the answers, but I trust myself enough to keep walking." And that trust, that grace under pressure, is the kind of courage the world needs more of. Step 5, you don't need to prove your strength. It's written in the battles you've overcome in silence. In a world that constantly demands explanation and validation, it's easy to feel like we have to prove ourselves, to showcase our strength, to highlight our achievements, to explain the reasons behind our resilience. But not everyone wears their strength on the outside. Some carry it quietly in the way they continue to live, love, and lead despite the battles they fought behind closed doors. You are one of those people. You don't parade your pain or victories because you know the truth. The most meaningful strength doesn't need to be announced. It just is lived, breathed, and felt in every quiet triumph. No one truly knows the weight of what you've carried. The days when you kept showing up with a smile even though your heart was breaking. The nights when you sat with your doubts, your fears, and your exhaustion, and still made the decision to keep going the next day. You've had moments where giving up would have been easier, where silence felt heavy and support felt far away. But still you rose, still you stood tall, and you did it without expecting recognition, applause, or understanding from anyone. That kind of quiet endurance is a language all its own, and you speak it fluently. The battles you fought weren't for attention. They were for survival. They were for peace. They were for becoming the person you are now, wiser, more grounded, and deeply aware of your own worth. Every scar you carry is a page in the story of your resilience. And though others may not read that story, it's written to the way you lead your life with compassion, empathy, and an inner strength that no one can take away from you. You've learned that you don't need to prove you're strong to anyone because you already know you are. That knowing is enough. People may not realize how powerful it is to choose silence over bitterness, grace over retaliation, and healing over hiding. But you do. You've chosen growth over resentment. You've chosen to rise rather than be defined by what tried to break you. You've mastered the art of moving forward with dignity, and that is something no one can fake. Your quiet strength speaks volumes to those who look closely. It tells a story of someone who has been through darkness and still carries light. So let the world keep asking for proof. Let it keep searching for signs of what strength should look like. You don't need to explain yourself. Your life is the evidence. Every step you take is a quiet declaration that you are still here, still whole, and still becoming. That is your strength. And though it may not always be seen or celebrated, it is always real, always present, and always enough. Step 6. The storms you've weathered without complaint have carved out a strength few will ever understand. Not all strength is visible. Some of the most powerful transformations happen quietly, in the solitude of personal storms. Storms you never asked for, never deserved, but faced anyway. That is the number R, the A, you just survived them. You endured them with a grace that no one could fully see, let alone comprehend. While others might have collapsed under the same weight, you stood your ground. And what's more extraordinary, you didn't do it for applause. You didn't complain. You simply carried the storm until it passed. And in doing so, became someone unshakably strong. It takes a certain kind of spirit to keep showing up when life feels relentless, when pain lingers longer than expected, when answers don't come, when people fail to understand what you're going through. And still, you chose to face it all without bitterness, without making your struggle a burden to others. You bore it in silence, not because it didn't hurt, but because you had faith in your ability to heal. That quiet courage, that silent fortitude is a strength most people will never be able to name, let alone mirror. What many don't see is that the storms you've weathered haven't just shaped your path. They've shaped you. They've deepened your empathy, sharpened your wisdom, and taught you how to stay grounded when the winds of life try to uproot you. They've carved out a version of you that isn't easily shaken, someone who doesn't crumble under pressure because they've already survived worse. Your calmness now. It's not the absence of struggle. It's the result of surviving so many unseen battles that your soul has learned to trust its own strength. And though you rarely speak of it, that inner resilience shines in everything you do. It's in the way you handle pressure without panicking, in how you comfort others, even when you're still healing yourself, in the quiet way you keep choosing hope even after disappointment. People may wonder where your strength comes from, how you remain so composed in chaos, so centered in uncertainty. What they don't realize is that you earned that steadiness one storm at a time by refusing to let life harden you. So let them underestimate the strength behind your silence. Let them overlook the cost of your calm, because you know the truth storms don't just test people, they reveal who they are. And the storms you've faced have revealed something rare in you, a depth, a resilience, and a quiet strength that only those who've walked through fire can truly understand. That strength is not only powerful, it's sacred. Step 7. You are the quiet force that inspires others to keep going, even when no one is watching. Not all inspiration comes from speeches or spotlights. Sometimes the most powerful encouragement comes from the people who lead by example. Not with loud words, but with silent strength. You are that kind of person. You don't try to be a role model, yet people look up to you. You don't seek admiration. That is the number R that your perseverance speaks to something deep in others. It's in the way you move through life with purpose and humility. You inspire simply by being real, by showing that quiet consistency, patience, and grace are still forms of leadership, even in a world drawn to noise. What's remarkable is how naturally you do it. You don't have to announce your intentions or wear your strength like armor. You just live your truth, honestly, steadily, and with compassion. And people notice, even when you think they aren't watching. They see how you keep showing up even when it's hard. They feel the calm you bring into chaotic spaces. They notice the way you treat others, how you carry your burdens without bitterness, and how you offer kindness without conditions. That quiet energy becomes a source of hope, especially to those who are struggling silently. Sometimes, the most meaningful impact we make is on people who never tell us we've helped them. Your strength reminds others that they, too, can carry on. Your presence tells them they don't need to have it all figured out to keep moving. In your small acts of consistency, in your soft-spoken courage, in your refusal to give up, you remind others of their own capacity to endure. You offer something rare, not just inspiration, but permission to be human, to be flawed, and to still be strong in the process. And while many chase visibility as a way to influence, you prove that quiet leadership is just as powerful. You don't need a platform to be impactful. You've become a source of steady light. A quiet reminder that strength doesn't always announce itself, but it always leaves a mark. The truth is, someone out there is holding on a little longer because they saw you keep going. They found hope in your patience, in your resilience, and in the way you face life's trials with quiet courage. So never underestimate the power of your presence. You may not always get recognition, and you may never hear the full story of how you've helped someone, but rest assured, your quiet force has made a difference. Your example is a ripple of strength in a world that desperately needs more calm, more compassion, and more people like you. People who inspire, not by trying to lead, but simply by living authentically. Step 8, and in that quiet strength, steady, humble, and true, lies your loudest, most enduring victory. Victory is often portrayed as a finish line, a loud, triumphant moment marked by celebration, recognition, and fanfare. But the truest victories don't always look like that. Sometimes victory is silent. It comes without applause. It arrives in the stillness after the storm, when you realize you made it through something that once felt impossible. Your victory isn't just in a single moment of success. It's in the steady strength that carried you through. It's in the quiet choices you made to grow, to heal, to keep going, even when no one was watching and no one understood. You didn't need to announce your battles to the world, and you never waited for external approval to claim your strength. Instead, you let your journey unfold with humility. You let the struggle refine you, not define you. And now, standing where you are, you carry a kind of victory that doesn't fade. It's not loud, but it's lasting, because it's built on truth, on resilience, integrity, and grace. It's the kind of victory that can't be taken from you, because it lives within you. Your quiet strength tells a story that few will ever fully grasp, but it's written in everything you are today. Your calm in chaos, your kindness despite pain, your wisdom earned through experience. This is not the kind of success that fits neatly into a social media post or an award ceremony. It's the kind that lives in your character, the kind that shapes your relationships, your leadership, your sense of self, the kind that speaks when you walk into a room even before you say a word. So often, the world praises noise, speed, and visibility, but you remind us all that true greatness can be found in the quiet, in showing up day after day with heart, in choosing peace over pride, and in standing tall without needing to be seen. You are living proof that the most powerful victories are not the ones others witness, but the ones you feel deep in your soul, when you realize you stayed true to yourself no matter what life threw your way. And that steady, humble, unwavering strength is your loudest victory. It doesn't need to be shouted to be heard. It resonates in the people you've touched, in the life you've built, and in the person you've become. You didn't just win over a circumstance. You rose above it and you became someone stronger because of it. That is legacy. That is power. And that is your quiet, undeniable triumph.